hell happened?
A bomb, I think.
Even though things have been pretty quiet on the news front when it comes to A Quiet Place Part 4, there's still a lot of excitement and hope for what's next in this unique horror franchise. Back in 2018, Paramount definitely didn't expect A Quiet Place to blow up the way it did. But it surprised everyone, not just audiences but also critics, by becoming both a box office success and a fresh take on horror. It helped that John Krasinski directed it and co-starred alongside his real-life wife, Emily Blunt. The whole concept of creatures that hunt you by sound was eerie and different, which made it stand out. Then, COVID hit, and like with so many other movies, the sequel got delayed. Originally set for 2020, A Quiet Place Part 2 finally landed in theaters in the summer of 2021. Once again, Krasinski was behind the camera, and Emily Blunt returned as Evelyn Abbott. This time, she's still fighting to protect her kids in a terrifying world where making a single noise can literally get you killed. Fast forward to 2024, and the franchise took a bit of a detour with A Quiet Place Day 1. Instead of continuing the story of Evelyn and her kids, this prequel went back to when the alien invasion first began. It was a smart move, in a way. It let the franchise explore new characters and settings without being tied to the original storyline just yet. Even so, Part 4 wasn't forgotten. In fact, it was officially announced to be in development. But the problem? Things have been dragging, and updates have been few and far between. That said, the most recent bit of info we've gotten came from South by Southwest 2025. Producer Brad Fuller gave fans a peek behind the curtain when he shared a little update on where things stand with A Quiet Place Part 4. According to him, the team is finally starting to pull things together for the next chapter. The main holdup? Krasinski's packed schedule. Fuller explained that John is working on another movie at the moment, and once that's done, the plan is for him to focus on Part 4. It's not ideal, but at least it confirms that the movie's still in the works and hasn't been dropped entirely. Fuller made a point of clarifying that Day 1 isn't A Quiet Place 3, which is something that had been a little confusing for fans. He explained that when the first movie was made, Krasinski didn't have much else going on professionally and was just starting to move into directing. But things have changed. Now he's in high demand, and getting him on board takes a bit more time. Still, Fuller is optimistic and said the whole team is eager to finish the trilogy. He even hinted that there could be more Quiet Place movies after that, which suggests that the universe could continue expanding beyond just a simple trilogy. Now, taking a quick look back, A Quiet Place Part 2 came out in 2021, and it did really well. So in 2022, Paramount went ahead and officially announced Part 4, and initially aimed for a 2025 release. But here's where things get murky. Since early 2024, there really hasn't been much to report. No trailers, no cast confirmations, nothing big. The only update since February 2024 has been that the 2025 release is no longer happening. So realistically, 2026 is now the most likely year for us to see this long-awaited film. And while that's not terrible news, the radio silence throughout all of 2024 has definitely made some fans a bit anxious. Still, the franchise has had a great run so far. The original film pulled in a huge $340 million at the box office and sits at a 96% score on Rotten Tomatoes. The sequel brought in $297 million with a 91% rating. Even Day 1, which shifted focus away from the Abbott family, made $261 million and scored an 87% on Rotten Tomatoes. Those numbers make it pretty clear that interest is still strong. As for the cast of Part 4, nothing's been officially confirmed, but it would make sense for some familiar faces to return. The heart of the franchise has always been the Abbott family, so fans are expecting Emily Blunt to come back as Evelyn. It's also likely that Millicent Simmonds and Noah Jupe will reprise their roles as her kids, Regan and Marcus. And since Part 2 brought in new characters like Emmett, played by Cillian Murphy, and the Man on the Island, played by Jimon Hunsu, there's always the possibility they'll return too, especially considering Emmett formed a meaningful connection with Regan. Now, story-wise, everything's being kept tightly under wraps. Krasinski hasn't shared specific plot points, but he has said he's got a whole arc in mind for the trilogy's conclusion. Based on how Part 2 ended, the story could very well follow the thread of Regan and Emmett discovering a safe island community where sound isn't a threat. That setup opens the door for humans to finally start fighting back. It's a compelling direction, especially if Part 4 picks up right where the last one left off. Emily Blunt has mentioned that they've always seen A Quiet Place as a trilogy, which means there's probably a bigger narrative at play that we haven't seen unfold completely yet. On top of that, since Day One introduced some brand new ideas and characters, those elements might get woven into the original storyline. The idea of bringing it all full circle is an exciting one. While Day One took place right at the start of the invasion, showing us what happened in New York as the aliens first landed, Part 4 could potentially tie back to those events and characters. There's even speculation that some of the surviving characters from Day One, like Sam, played by Lupita Nyong'o, and Eric, played by Joseph Quinn, might pop up in the next film. That would definitely be an interesting crossover and could connect the prequel and main storyline in a meaningful way. And here's something else to think about. Day One hinted that the military knew about the aliens before they arrived. When Sam steps out into New York City, you can already see military planes flying above and armored vehicles speeding down the streets, even though the aliens haven't officially shown up yet. That tells us the government had some kind of intel and was trying to prepare, even if their efforts didn't work out. There's even a moment where a hospice nurse is told to bring patients back early because something's happening in the city, which just reinforces the idea that people in power saw it coming. So this begs the question, what if the franchise decided to explore that angle more? A military-focused prequel could be a really cool twist. It would change the tone completely, shifting from survival horror to something more like a sci-fi thriller. Imagine following scientists and generals as they argue over how to handle this unknown threat, while tension builds as the meteors and monsters get closer. It could help fill in some of the blanks left by the other movies and explain what really went down in those early hours. Compared to the intimate, personal stories of the Abbott family or the small group in Day One, a military story would zoom out and show the bigger picture. It could give us insight into what the world was doing as it stared down extinction, and maybe show us why everything fell apart so fast. There's definitely potential there. And speaking of potential, Joseph Quinn, who played Eric in Day One, recently commented on whether his character might return in future Quiet Place projects. While nothing's confirmed yet, the fact that he's being asked about it suggests that the door is still wide open. His dynamic with Lupita Nyong'o's character Samira was a strong point of the prequel, and it would make sense for those characters to show up again, especially if Part 4 looks at survivors from multiple places trying to come together and rebuild. So even though the wait for A Quiet Place Part 4 has been longer than anyone wanted, there's still a bunch of reasons to stay hopeful. Krasinski seems committed to finishing the trilogy, the producers are actively working on it, and fans clearly haven't lost interest. While 2026 may now be the more realistic release window, it looks like the story of the Abbotts, and maybe even Sam and Eric, is far from over. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.